So, I want us to think all for a minute about something that we all need on a basic level, something that everyone in this room has. And that's a place to be, a place to go to, rest your head, close your eyes, and feel safe that you'll be protected and that you'll be able to wake up the next day without any problems. It's a place that you can leave during the day and come back and know that your belongings are still there. And for about 2 billion people right now, they don't have that luxury. There's a severe lack of adequate housing in the world. However, here in America, in developing nations, we have taken this idea of shelter and a place to be and kind of abstracted it to a very high degree. Some of these buildings you see are very resource intensive. They're very labor intensive to construct, and they take up a lot of resources. They also they do provide that basic need of a place to be in the shelter, but they also provide many other things which we definitely enjoy. But on the other side of the spectrum, there are vast numbers of people lacking this adequate housing, this adequate shelter, and often it's not done the most efficient way. They do use very minimal materials, but the actual space that's being used isn't quite efficient, and they're definitely not substantial. So there will always be a need to find ways to house people and provide that shelter. Maybe we can turn to nature for some ideas about how to do this, and especially what I've been working on is how we can take the hexagon and see how we can apply that to housing. So this is a basalt rock formation on the coast of Ireland, and these are hexagonal-shaped stones. We also see the hexagon appear in snowflakes. The hexagon appears again in the crystal structure of carbon atoms. And again, we see this is actually the eye of a dragonfly. We can see this hexagon pattern appear yet again. And probably most recognizably is in the honeycomb structure of bees as well as wasps. Now, they've been doing this for hundreds of millions of years, and you think they have a pretty good idea about what they're doing. They're finding a way to enclose space utilizing resources very efficiently. They're also creating a community when they're doing this. And so, can we take this idea of using these stacked hexagons and also building a kind of community architecture to create, to satisfy this need for shelter? So that's what the bee home is, and this is kind of the conceptual idea of what it could be at some point in the future. It's what we're working towards. It could change, but these would be human-sized and create this really interesting architecture where you have these hexagonal pods that interrelate to each other, and it builds a sense of community between the people. So back in the shop that I'm working at are very high-tech, clean facilities. Among the many projects we're working on, we decided to start working on this one, and so we made a rough prototype version of it out of some rebar and some electrical metal tubing we had hanging around, just to kind of get an idea of how the basic structure works. So just jump in and do it. And we came up with a pretty cool. You can see how the hexagon is working here as well, and how we're creating this triangulation along the edges. The next prototype was much larger and more in-depth, and here you can see Flip hanging out on the second floor. Again, this is still just a rough prototype, a rough version of how to get this basic endoskeleton, and it's been working out pretty well so far. Here's another one of the guys in the shop, Vince, hanging out in the bee home, and this time we kind of fleshed out the sides with some mylar we had hanging around. And again, all the parts we're using right now are just kind of off-the-shelf components. This is just a thicker electrical metal tubing just to get the idea of how this kind of structure works. And it was able to support a few people standing up inside of it. There's still much more work that has to be done on the structural side, and that's what I'm working on now, but we got the basic concept and idea. Here's the owner of the shop and the kind of mastermind behind this new architecture, the V-Home, Pete, hanging out. You can see how in this space you might have some shelving, things that kind of collapse off the side or attach in between. And again, it's just roughed out with some construction tarp and plywood for the floors. So we took this whole, another thing we want to focus on is how we can take this apart in pieces and have it be modular and be able to transport to put somewhere else. So we took the whole structure apart, transported it to another empty warehouse space in Trenton, and set it back up as part of a conceptual tour we had in the fall, kind of a conceptual art tour. So it's still it still functioned kind of as a conceptual art piece for now, but we figured we'd put it there. And I went there a few months ago and found that someone had actually moved into the structure and was using the V-Home, which I guess shouldn't be too surprising given of the place that was put in, but it was still interesting thing to come across nonetheless. I think the maid might not have come by that day. It was a little bit messy. And so here's what it looks like again from the back, and you can just see how these hexagonal pods are created. I know Kurtz is going to give me a good talk about how this definitely isn't going to work, but it's something we work towards too. So here's what this kind of community architecture might look like. Up top, you can see there would be regular units, and maybe along the floor there would be mechanical spaces. There might be kitchens or bathrooms. Who knows? On the sides, we might put solar panels, and then there could also be rainwater capture and filtration that could be kind of integrated just to make it a more holistic design, and really get that sense of people that live there have to work together, and they have, instead of having two neighbor on either side, they literally have like 6 neighbors that they might have to work with. So as far as the whole construction kind of process is, you have this endoskeleton, and then you have some vertical supports, floor supports, followed by load-bearing floors and floor walls, and then would come not necessarily load-bearing ceiling and ceiling walls, and then there could be internal shelving, some sort of internal furnishings, followed by an external sheathing, something that's waterproof, and this could also include the insulation and some of the modest utilities that might run through the structure, and then the stairs and the external finishings. And I don't think this is necessarily International Building Code approved. Don't have a railing on there yet, and so there's definitely many things that we have yet to work out and flesh out, but it's always kind of a work in progress. Some fancy images of what the inside could look like with a fold-out bed and kind of just basic shelving. And again, it just gives it's different than thinking about these flat walls and these right angles. You get this more kind of comforting space to be in when you have 6 sides to it. It's a very interesting space to be in. And again, what a kitchen might look like, and perhaps a divided unit so that you could have people living on either side. And it's like the name comes from V-Home. It's just a place to be. It's a place where you can have that, just rest your head, close the door, and have somewhere where you can be. So we're working now with some students from a local university. They're going to be helping us flesh out some of the ideas with the solar panels and with the rainwater capture, and they're pretty excited about it. So we're going to be working with them over the course of the spring, and hopefully have another prototype, a much more robust prototype, by the end of the semester. Here's us working in class with some of the students. And I just want to go back to this this last image, or this image that was out before. This, it's nothing exceptional, it's nothing great, but when you provide this space, and this is a huge warehouse, you provide this sort of space for someone to be, they will go there because everyone just needs that sort of that enclosure, that space, and I think it's worth trying to provide that for people. Thank you.